Hello everybody and welcome to another A+ 1101 lesson with a practice quiz at the end, where I'm going to take you through objective 4.2. We're going to go through every dot point and sub dot point outlined here on the screen right now, and then at the end I'll give you a practice quiz to test you on that information to make sure we know what we need to know for the exam. We'll start off by looking at the first dot point here: purpose of virtual machines. What are use cases that we would actually use a virtual machine for? So the first one here is sandbox. Now, as outlined here, sandbox environment is essentially like a really safe space, it's my safe space that I can go into and test any code that I want to test, make sure that if I'm going to make a change to an environment, I can test it first in the sandbox, so that if it explodes and it goes terribly wrong, I'm not actually causing damage to my real environment over here. I'm not actually damaging my network. Nothing is truly going to go wrong. Now, that being said, it's important to note, and we'll talk about this later in this video when it comes up more specifically, but it's important to note that a sandbox environment does not absolutely protect you completely from things like malware or viruses or things to that effect. They can still escape and get out. So virtual machines are not an entirely safe place where you can just go and browse whatever websites you want, download whatever programs you want with absolutely zero risk of negative things happening to the network connected to your virtual machine. Do not operate under that assumption, but it is a safe place where you can do some testing, and if something goes wrong in the testing, then your actual network, your actual system is going to be okay. Now, the next one is test development. Now, this one's very similar, but a slight caveat, right? So let's say in a sandbox, it's this idea that you can pretty much relatively do whatever you want in there without fear that it's going to hurt your actual network, your actual device. Test development is, I guess, a more specific use case for this concept. So what you can do, you can essentially create an image of your actual device that you usually use, create that, put it on a virtual machine, and you can make any changes that you would like to make to see how it would affect your real machine, but you're actually seeing what those effects would be within the setting of a virtual machine. So again, you're not actually impacting your actual machine or your actual system. So it could be with an application, it could be with a machine, it could be really anything that you can think of that you would want to use this for. So you can test your application code, right, in a secure environment without any concerns. So if you're asked a question about, Mark wants to test the code for his application in a safe place without impacting his actual application, how can he do this? He can use virtual machines to do test development. What might be the correct answer there? Now, the next one is, if we go back to the exam objective, we've got application virtualization and then two sub dot points within that: legacy software / operating system, and then cross-platform virtualization. So these two are actually subcategories of application virtualization. So keep that in mind as we move forward. But legacy software / operating system is if you have an old software that you want to use and it's not actually able to be operated on your new modern operating system, you can install a virtual machine where you can set up that virtual machine to be running that older operating system, so that you can then, by using the virtual machine on your modern device, actually run that older application that would theoretically no longer run on your modern device, which is why this guy here is covered in cobwebs. He's pretty much following that principle. And the second one is cross-platform virtualization. So that's the idea that you have a Windows, but you want to use a Mac program. You can install a Mac virtual machine on your Windows device and then use the Mac program within your Windows device, essentially. So you're like bypassing that issue. Those are those two concepts. Essentially, that's what you need to know. Now, resource requirements. A CPU must have virtualization capabilities in order for you to use virtualization technology. So on Intel, this is VT, or virtualization technology, quite literally named. And on AMD, it is called AMD V. It's important that you do know what those are called. You may very well get a question on those. You will also need to make sure that you have RAM that exceeds the host requirements in order to use virtualization technology, and you'll need a lot of storage space as well. Now, this is a follow-up on what I was talking about at the beginning of this one: security requirements. So a virtual machine is not a safe space that is completely immune to malware or viruses, and you can actually get something called a VM escape, which is where your virtual machine does contract a virus or does have malware, and that then escapes and moves onto your actual machine. And from there, it escapes and moves onto your network. So that's why I gave that warning when talking about the sandbox. Don't fall into the trap of thinking it is completely safe from everything. Absolutely not. You still want to follow the same security requirements that you would follow as if you were not using a virtual machine and you were using your actual everyday machine on your network. Follow the same security requirements. Do not treat it as a special case. Now, that being said, let's get into some questions. But before we do, a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, I'm just here to tell you that the A+ 1101 learning package with the practice exams, the learning guide that people are absolutely loving, and the performance-based question simulation is on sale for the next 3 days, and that is on sale for $50. So you're getting $25 off only the next 3 days. If you want that, go grab it. All right, let's go back to the questions. Now that he's gone, let's get into it. Question 1 reads, you are a developer working on a project that requires testing code changes without affecting your production environment. Which virtualization approach would be ideal for this scenario? A. Legacy software virtualization. B. Cross-platform virtualization. C. Application virtualization. Or D. Sandbox environment. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is D. Sandbox environment. So again, that is the only one out of these options that provides somewhat of a safe space to do any sort of testing. We talked about what the rest of these were. These two are subcategories within application virtualization, and they don't apply to having a safe space. They apply to using virtual machines in order to achieve some sort of other goal, whether it being using older operating systems or older applications, or using applications designed to only be used on other operating systems. Okay, next question reads, when setting up virtual machines for a project, which of the following hardware configurations is the most important based on the provided information? A. Use a third-party VM designed by a reputable vendor to save time on setup. B. Ensure that your CPU supports virtualization capabilities such as Intel's VT or AMD's AMD-V. C. Allocate the exact amount of RAM as specified by the host requirements to optimize virtual machine performance. Or D. Increase storage space to accommodate future data growth. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer coming in 3, 2, 1. Now, the answer is B. Ensure that your CPU supports virtualization capabilities such as VT or AMD's AMD-V. So you, again, no matter how much RAM you have, no matter how high-tech your device is, no matter how much storage you have, if your CPU doesn't have these capabilities, you're not going to be able to use virtualization technology. It's as simple as that. This is the first thing you should check, because if this isn't there, there's no point in looking at your RAM or your other system resources, right? Because you're still not going to be able to do it. Now, next question says, which of the following is not a purpose of virtual machines? A. Sandboxing. B. Test development. C. Taking advantage of fewer security requirements. Or D. Application virtualization. Pause the video if you need more time. Your answer is right about now. Answer is C, taking advantage of fewer security requirements. We went through why virtual machines still need to be held accountable to the same security requirements as regular machines. They are not immune to security issues. Definitely treat them the same as you would any other device. Now, if you found this video useful, please go ahead, head over to journeytocyber.com. I've got my learning guide, which is getting a lot of positive reviews. Check these out. Your notes helped me pass my test today. This guide is really good. It helped me make everything a lot clearer. Your learning guide is goated. I don't comment a lot, but it helps with organized information. And I downloaded your learning guide already. I can see that it will help immensely. So this learning guide over here on the left breaks it down by not only exam objective, but also each dot point within exam objective. You get notes, active recall questions, questions and answers for every single dot point within every single exam objectives, and learning activities for the really, really important parts. I also have my 5 practice exams over here. 5 practice exams, each one has performance-based questions within them. And finally, my performance-based question simulations. You can actually go through, click on the different boxes and answer the questions without relying on multiple choice options to choose from, and that is all currently on special, $25 off. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, if you want to pass sooner rather than later, then go ahead and grab that. It's only for the next 3 days that offer is there. That being said, if you're happy to wait for the next video, then I will see you in the next video. Good luck studying, guys, and I'll see you next time.